Ms. Rabine or Mr. Von Losper, are you aware of any absences this evening that were planned?
The only one I can think of is Miss Anderson, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I will call the Missoula City Council meeting of November 9th, 2020 to order. Please note for the record, it appears that all council members are present except Ms. Becerra and Ms. Anderson. We have minutes from the October 19th and November 2nd meeting available for approval. With no objection, they will be approved. Seeing none, they'll be approved. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this Zoom webinar. I will call for public comment several times during the meeting this evening. And if you do care to comment, I'd ask that you use the raise lower hand feature to let me know, and I will recognize you. I will enable your microphone, but you will need to unmute. And if you've joined us by phone today, you can raise and lower your hand by pressing *9 and mute and unmute using mute and unmute, sorry, using *6. And if you are participating by phone, I'll call the last four numbers of your phone number. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we can move on to our schedule of committee meetings. Ms. Rabine.
Thanks, Mayor Engen. Just for the folks who are watching in the audience tonight, the City Council will be holding committee meetings on the 18th of November. City Council will not be meeting next week, Monday. And there will be no committee meetings on the 11th because that is Veterans Day. So I forgot to turn on my video. There we go. Because there's no committee meeting on Wednesday, there is no City Council meeting the following Monday. So we are setting up committee meetings for the 18th of November, and here they are. There's 3 of them, but it's a full day. So the Public Safety and Health Committee will meet from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. The Committee of the Whole will meet on the 18th from 12:30 till 1:15, and Land Use and Planning Committee will round out the day from 1:30 in the afternoon till 5 o'clock. All of those meetings are being held as Zoom webinars, just like this one is. And to access those meetings, you can just basically Google the City of Missoula, and we'll be at the top of those search results. Click on the meetings button in the middle of the page. That'll take you to Agenda Central for the city, and you can click on any one of these meetings on that website, and the information to join the webinar is on the top of every one of our public meeting agendas. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rabine. And I will note for the record that Ms. Becerra is here. Any changes to the committee schedule? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the general public comment portion of our agenda. This is your opportunity to comment on items not elsewhere on our agenda this evening. I'd like you, if you would please, keep your remarks to about 3 minutes. And Josh?
Hello, my name is Josh Decker. I'm a resident of Ward 1. I'm calling tonight to comment on the recent use of lethal force by Missoula Police Department. Cale Brown is no longer one of our neighbors because of the use of lethal force on November 5th. It saddens me to know that this happened. I know that anytime lethal force is used, it's a unique and complicated circumstance. But it comes on the heels of a delay in the implementation of our crisis intervention team. I think that everyone can recognize that had we had a functional crisis intervention team in place, that Cale Brown's death could have been avoided. I just, I'll draw a comparison. I think that, I'm guessing when I say, but I would imagine that the tactical enforcement equipment, helmets, and so forth that were approved in the budget were ordered, purchased, and received right away. I bet those helmets are sitting in the police lockers right now. And it just shows where our priorities are as a community, and I'm sickened by it. I call for the county attorney to make available all relevant body camera and dash camera footage immediately. I call for the names of the involved officers and their service and conduct records to be released immediately. And I call for our community to hold space in our thoughts for Cale Brown's family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. And Mr. Larson.
Yes, this is Mads Larson, Ward 2. Nice to see everyone. I'd also like to echo the comments of Josh Decker. Very insightful, and this is a very sad day. I'd also like to give my condolences to the family of the deceased and his 2 daughters. It really is a wake-up call, I think, and I hope that all of you on the other side can kind of see this now. I hope that you think about what's really going on here and what's really important in our community. I'd like to see some legislation or motions passed by the city council regarding body camera footage. And, given the sorry state of affairs right now that is being fostered at Missoula Police Department, I would not be surprised if there are discrepancies with the body camera footage and the dash cam footage that we may or may not even be allowed to see. I too challenge the county attorney to release all relevant footage and all relevant radio communications. Just show us. Don't tell us don't tell us anything if you're not even going to release the type of disturbance this was, the name of the officers, and it's great DCI is investigating this, but at the end of the day, that DCI report goes back to the county attorney, and we're not seeing much transparency from the city attorney or the county attorney or much action from you all. So I really want to compel you guys to do something. Thank you.
Seeing no additional public comment. Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Helsel?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Andy Helsel, Ward 2. I would just encourage not only members of council and you, Mr. Mayor, but also other members of the community to use our imaginations and put sort of empathy and compassion first in our responses to anything. What I notice is that people are quick to say that use of force is a problem so long as the person that has been harmed is as close to perfect as can be. The fact of the matter is that none of us are that any of us could find ourselves in a position where we are aggressive or in crisis or, on our worst day, and having an officer show up there and feel threatened, feel like he needs to defend himself from a knife with a gun is a problem, regardless of this person's record, regardless of any of the circumstances of this incident. A officer of the state murdered someone on Saturday, and that matters. It also is unlike any other circumstance in this country that someone has killed another person and we don't know the name of that person 2 days later. And I understand that we have been asked to exercise patience as a community and to wait for people to do their jobs. But the fact of the matter is that we have no reason as a community, as the Missoula public, to trust the Missoula Police Department, to trust the city council or the mayor or the chief of police or the county attorney to be transparent in these matters. For example, months ago, I heard on a council meeting just like this one, that the incident involving Officer Malone was, quote, under investigation. Today, November 9th, 2020, Officer Malone is employed by the Missoula Police Department. He was in uniform in the station yesterday, yet body camera footage of his partners shows him bragging about assaulting an Indigenous man during an incident. He later lied on the witness stand. So whatever is under investigation has not been disclosed to the public. We do not understand or know what disciplinary measures have been taken to address this problem, and therefore we have absolutely no reason to trust that transparency will be exercised with regard to Cale Brown's murder. If you want your community to trust you, then earn that trust.
And that's about 3 minutes, Ms. Helsel.
Thank you.
And Beverly?
Hi, my name is Beverly Sitton. I live in Ward 3. I'd like to echo some of the sentiments that have been expressed tonight. You know, no one deserves to die because they're having a mental health crisis. The fact that we have been talking about how we are going to respond to instances of harm or respond to instances of crisis for so long within the city council, and we still have like no in-place system for distributing the information about who is involved when instances like this happen is atrocious. I think the fact that we have to keep coming to city council meetings to get information that should be widely distributed as quickly as possible is disheartening. And like, this could have been any of us. And I think a lot of people are here today or outside of the police station tonight and yesterday, because they know that they could also be having a bad day and expect a violent response from the people that are supposed to be there to help protect them and give them resources. And that's fucked up. No one should have to fear for their life, regardless of sort of like what circumstances are going on, regardless of what sort of crisis they're in.
So I'm going to ask folks that we refrain from profanity in these meetings. I'll let you continue.
Thanks. I think I'm about done. It's ridiculous that we don't have access to this information and people do not trust that they will be given this information in a timely manner before decisions are made without any sort of like public input.
Thank you. And Natalie.
Hi, Natalie Sockman, Ward 2. I wanted to echo previous two statements and just keep it short that it's terrifying that this could happen in our community, and I hope that you all take it seriously this time, hopefully. It's pretty discouraging to attend city council meetings and see nothing continuously but be done about police accountability, and then to have someone shot down by police just a few days ago. So just to remind you that it makes it terrifying to live in this community, knowing that cops are capable of doing that, and especially our Missoula City employees, and aren't restrained from doing that, and there isn't accountability as it seems right now. So I'd urge you to make that happen and keep the police department accountable. Thanks.
And I have a caller. Last four digits are 4053. Caller 4053 may be muted.
Hello, this is the Colin. Sorry it took me a minute to show up. I just wanted to add to the long line of comments today to request a better information distribution service and to request that the crisis hotline team and that model of law enforcement is continued to be pursued at the fastest timeline possible. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Romero.
Hi, yes, my name is Leticia Romero. I live in Ward 4. I just wanted to also echo the comments that came before this. I also just wanted to say the name Jesse James Cale Brown. He was a father of two, a 16-year-old and a 6-year-old. That weighs really heavily on my heart as well. I have a daughter. Hello. And so I just wanted to make sure City Council and the mayor are aware that that this person is a community member with family, now without a dad, and to hold ourselves accountable as a community and see how we can avoid this tragedy that I'm sure we all know that could have been different had we had the mental health crisis team. So that's all. Thank you so much.
And Mark B.
Hello, can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
My name is Mark Berner and I live in Ward 2. And I'm also echoing the last 18 minutes of this meeting, and I appreciate your time. I would just like to see the police to be held accountable, and I would like the information on what they're doing to be presented to the public in a fashionable manner. And, you know, that could have been anybody having a bad day. And I guess I just want to know what the story was, what happened, what caused him to have to be shot. Why couldn't he have been, you know, held accountable for his actions in a different way? You know, maybe the police didn't need to be there. Maybe this new, the crisis unit could have been the thing. And I know I today saw that there are so many different public health options and resources, and it would be nice for those resources to be well known other than calling the police. You know, maybe a counselor could have been there, or whatever could have been prevented to not have him lose his life. And it's really sad to know the last speaker who said that he has 2 children now that are without a father. And I think all of this doesn't add well in the community's eyes. For instance, how do you feel when you see a police officer knowing that if you present yourself in a nervous way, or if you're scared and he senses that and you make one wrong move and he decides to murder you? Like, I don't want to see people having to exercise the Second Amendment just to feel safe to come out of their own house, you know, like, where we need accountability, we need information, and we need people to get the help that they need, not to be expedited through the system of what we see with law enforcement in the jail system that really doesn't seem to have a high percentage of output of people actually recovering or making their lives better or being able to present themselves to the community in a more helpful fashion. I hope you guys agree with that. I hope you guys want to make better change too, because it benefits our whole community. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. And Katie Kane.
Hi, I'm Katie Kane, Ward 6, and I'd just like to urge the City Council, the Missoula City Council and the mayor to start taking seriously its job of thinking creatively through what is a national problem that even our centrist president-elect has identified as a site for reform and innovation. And I just am so tired of the City Council not coming up with creative solutions to all kinds of issues that involve the police. But in this case, I would call upon the City Council to come up with something like ending police-only responses to mental health 911 calls. And then I would, echo the suggestions that other people have made with regard to trying to come up with some way to have trained professionals who know how to de-escalate these situations accompany the police. If we don't do something, the blood of this man and the lives of his children are in our hands.
Thank you. And I have a caller. Last year was 6032.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for taking my call. I would like to echo everyone who has spoken before me. My name is Allison. I live in the River Road neighborhood, and I could hear the gunshots from my apartment Saturday evening, and so it was definitely jarring. And I wanted to add that gun violence is also a public health issue. It affects the community at large, in addition to murdering this individual. So you know, the actions of one police officer has ramifications for the entire community, the entire city. And so I want to echo everyone for transparency of this entire case, beginning to end, and the entire process for the whole city at large. The proliferation of the mobile mental health crisis unit for greater violence de-escalation training. We need more, and this is affecting everyone at large. You know, I have this personal trauma response from this experience that definitely has affected my experience working with the police in the future. And so, you know, for this man, for his family, we need to be creative in the solutions going forward and in prevention, because this is a community effort, and your responsibility is on you and the police force to protect our community. So thank you for listening, and we need to see more transparency, accountability, and prevention now.
Thank you. And caller 3100.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Joe Huddleston. I live in Ward 4. I'm going to try and keep this short. I'm just here to echo the comments you've already had. I think at a time of unprecedented mistrust of police, I think it's unconscionable that we don't know just the basic information about this killing. It does not require a investigation to hand over just the basic details that people want to know. I think if you can't provide that, this crisis of mistrust, not just in police, but in government in general, is only going to continue. These are basic things that can help assuage some of this mistrust. And it's frankly what we pay our taxes for. The community pays the salaries, not just of the police, but also of city council. It is important, and all of our city services. We need to have faith that what you are doing your jobs, and that you can be trusted to protect us. I hope you do that. I hope we get that information, and I hope that we still have confidence at the end of this investigation that the police are actually going to protect our community. Thank you.
Being no additional comment, we will move on, ladies and gentlemen, to our consent agenda items here. Were approved by council committees to be placed on this agenda to save a little time on Monday evenings. Ms. Rabine will read the list of consent agenda items aloud, so those watching or Zooming will know what we're considering, and we'll invite comment before we vote. Ms. Rabine.
Thanks, Mayor Engen. Tonight's consent agenda has, 6 items. The first, as always, is to approve claims. Claims are the city's accounts payable. And this week, council is being asked to approve claims in the amount of $296,929.64 for checks that are dated November 10th, that's tomorrow, 2021. Number 2 is to adopt a resolution of the City Council to adopt the 2019 Missoula Wastewater Facilities Plan. Number 3 is to adopt a resolution of the Missoula City Council to establish a utility service area boundary to combine the sewer and water services area as shown in Exhibit A of that resolution. It's attached to our agenda tonight. Number 4 is to adopt a resolution, easy for me to say, adopt a resolution of the Missoula City Council to adopt the 2019 Water System Master Plan. Number 5 is to confirm the mayor's appointment of Tung Pham to the Missoula Consolidated Planning Board for a term that begins immediately and expires on December 31st of 2022. And finally, number 6 is to confirm Ms. Erin Pahan as the new Community Planning Development and Innovation Director.
Thank you, Ms. Rabine. Questions or comments from council members? It's seeing none, and seeing no one with a hand raised in the audience, we'll have a roll call vote.
Okay, on that consent agenda, hang on just a second.
Well, Ms. Rabine, I see I do have a hand up here. Let me grab this.
Oh no, this is Matt Larson again. Just wanted to congratulate you guys on the claims this week. This is like the first week that I can remember in so long that we don't have a claim check for the water department for a legal battle. So congratulations, guys. I don't know, maybe things are working, but hopefully we'll know what's going on with all that stuff at some point, and maybe you guys can release the baseline core budget documents. Those would be great to see. The itemized inventory of each department, whether stuff's been paid off, how much is owed on what equipment, and basically what's going on under the hood of the city. I think it'd be in the interest to see the police budget, for instance, and the baseline budget to the police department. But that's just me. I'll let you guys make your vote. But again, congratulations on not spending a bunch of money on something that should have been settled a long time ago.
And Ms. Rabine.
Okay. This is a vote on the consent agenda. Becerra.
Yes.
Contos.
Yes.
Harp.
Yes.
Hess.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes.
Ramos.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Nasika.
Yes.
Von Lossberg.
Yes.
And West.
Yes.
Would any of you like to change your vote? That tally is 11 ayes and 1 absent.
And pardon me, the consent agenda is approved. We have no comments from city staff, agencies, boards, commissions, authorities, or the community forum. We do have one special presentation this evening in the form of a proclamation. Ladies and gentlemen, whereas 1 in 5 Montana youth will experience the death of a parent or sibling before their 25th birthday, and whereas many individuals feel misunderstood in the wake of loss, thinking that their grief is invisible to those around them, and whereas all bereaved youth need advocates supporting them as they re-enter and navigate a world without their person, and whereas effective grief support can help mitigate against possible negative outcomes and dangerous or disruptive coping mechanisms, and whereas recognizing this day serves to build a foundation of support for grieving youth, strengthening a national community of bereaved individuals, support service organizations, and community members, and whereas our community is committed to supporting one another, working to cultivate awareness of childhood grief and ensure that no child grieves alone, now therefore I, John Engen, Mayor of the City of Missoula and the state of Montana, do hereby proclaim the 19th day of November 2020 as Children's Grief Awareness Day. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, without objection, I'm hoping that you will allow me to take items of new business so we can get some staff members clear tonight. Seeing no objection. Great, thank you. So under new business, our first item is a business purchase agreement, a contract, and that is happening in Ms. Becerra's committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item is a business purchase agreement with HEG Montana LLC, and Dennis Bowman will be presenting.
Mr. Bowman.
Thank you, Mayor Engen. Good evening, everybody. My name is Dennis Bowman. I'm the Deputy Public Works Director for the Utilities of the City of Missoula. Tonight is the new business item is business purchase agreement with HEG Montana. Recommended motion is move the city council to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a business purchase agreement with HEG, otherwise as Hybrid Energy Group Montana LLC, for the purpose of the business and its assets at a cost not to exceed $165,938. HEG Montana LLC has been overseeing the administration and maintenance service of the Poplar Tree Farm for 7 years. Tom Platt, the owner at the time, had the same vision as the city of Missoula and was instrumental in the success of this project. Because of the health reasons, Tom was unable to keep working on the project. John DeBari and his partners helped Tom out by purchasing HEG in 2018. The city of Missoula hired an appraiser and HEG hired their own appraiser. And after receiving the appraisal, we reached an agreement of $165,938. For the future activities and expenditures of the Poplar Farm, it is in the best interest of the city to own HEG.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. And Ms. Becerra, would you please make a motion?
Happy to. I recommend that we approve and authorize the mayor to sign a business purchase agreement with HEG Montana LLC for the purchase of the business and its assets to provide for maintenance of the Poplar Grove at the wastewater treatment plant and Garden City compost site at a cost not to exceed $165,938.
Thank you, Ms. Becerra. Is there discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none. Any public comment on the motion? Mr. Larson.
Yes, this is again Mats Larson, Ward 3. This is a most interesting purchase by the city. I'm wondering what's going on with this, especially as I understand it, the poplar market isn't really there anymore. So like there's no sale value to all these trees that we've grown right now because something to do with the pandemic. And so I'm just curious as to why we're now buying the company. And what does this entail? This is a service company that doesn't even they don't even own the land, right? Like, so what's going on with this? I just don't understand the logic of purchasing the company to a market that's totally bottomed out. But I don't know, maybe you can explain to me.
Seeing no additional comment, Ms. Hart, discussion?
Yeah, I appreciate Mr. Larson's comment. So in committee last week, what we learned is, you're right, there is not much demand at all for poplar in terms of in lumber form. But the real additional benefit of what this project actually does, it prevents effluent being circulated into the Clark Fork River. And I think every single one of us here believes in clean water and that we should do the right thing as stewards of both our land and our water and our air. And for that reason, I support this.
Seeing no further discussion, we will have a roll call vote.
Okay, on the motion to approve the contract, Contos.
No.
Contos votes no. Harp.
Yes.
Hess.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes.
Ramos.
No.
Gerald.
Yes.
Basika.
No.
Von Lossberg.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
And Becerra.
Yes.
Would any of you like to change your vote? It is 8 ayes, 3 nays, and 1 absent.
And the motion is approved. Thank you. Next is a letter of intent with the Flynn Family Limited Partnership. And once again, Ms. Becerra, this is in your committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this is a letter of intent with the Flynn Family Limited Partnership, and Jeremy Keene is presenting for us.
Mr. Keene.
Good evening.
Jeremy Keene, Director for Public Works and now Mobility. What we have before you tonight is a letter of intent to purchase or to acquire right-of-way from the Flynn Family Limited Partnership. This is right-of-way that will go into the Mullen Build Grant project. And this letter of intent establishes some of the initial parameters that needed to be defined in order to dedicate these right-of-ways. As you are all aware, the city, in partnership with Missoula County, received a federal build grant and intends to construct transportation improvements and utility improvements in the Mullen Road area. And the Flynn Family Partnership intends to develop their property through a third-party sale, and subject to regulations with the city, which require public infrastructure improvements. So construction of the Mullen Build project benefits their property by reducing their cost of development. The build grant and other existing funding sources will cover about 50% of the cost of the project. The city intends to create a special transportation impact fee and utility latecomers fees, subject to approval of City Council, to fund the remainder of the costs of the project. So this letter of intent establishes those terms for granting the right-of-way necessary to construct both the Mary Jane portion of the Mullen Build project, and in the future, the O'Leary Street connection. So we'll be bringing a recommendation to council in the coming weeks for the special transportation impact fee and the utility latecomers fees. We've got some preliminary numbers on those now, and we're refining those for public presentation. So I apologize that the agreement was not attached to the agenda tonight. I have emailed that to council, and we'll make sure that gets posted for the public. What this agreement does is it grants right-of-way for Mary Jane Boulevard. It also grants right-of-way for O'Leary. And it also spells out that the landowner will participate in those additional funding mechanisms to recover the remainder of the cost of building the build grant project. And in return, the city, in partnership with the county, will complete the engineering and construct the project. And we'll also honor the development agreement that's in place for this project, for this parcel, in terms of the density calculations, which will be based on the original parcel area. And so if you remember the Hellgate Village development agreement, it spelled out specific density requirements in concert with the rezoning that was done for that parcel. And this is just an implementation of that development agreement. We're honoring what was agreed to there in terms of the densities that will be allowed on that parcel. And just as a side note there, that it falls all within the zoning that was approved. So we're not doing anything that requires a variance or anything different than what is already on the books. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keene. Ms. Becerra, I'd entertain a motion, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. I recommend that we approve and authorize the mayor to sign a letter of intent with the Flynn Family Limited Partnership, the city of Missoula and Missoula County, to grant a right-of-way for the purpose of carrying out projects pertaining to an extension of Mary Jane Boulevard and O'Leary Street, provided for through the build grant. May I speak to the motion, please?
Ms. Becerra.
I hope that everyone supports this motion. This is a very important piece of the puzzle for development in this area. The transportation and land use connection is imperative to have a well thought out planning and development in this area. So I hope that you will support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Becerra. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none and seeing no hands up in the attendees, I will ask Ms. Rabine to call the roll.
Okay, on the motion to authorize the mayor to sign a letter of intent, Harp,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
and Contos.
Yes.
Would any of you like to change your vote? That is 11 ayes and 1 absent.
And the motion is approved. Our third item of new business this evening is a housing navigator contract. And that is happening in administration and finance. Ms. Jones.
Yes, thank you. This is the Housing Navigator contract. The contract is with Partnership Health. This is to hire a housing navigator who will work with our coordinated entry system specifically to help homeless people get housing. And I believe the money is federal funds from CBDG. And I think Karen Gasvoda is here to present on this.
Ms. Gasvoda.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So before you is a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a housing navigator grant contract with Partnership Health Center in the amount of $40,000. The housing navigator position is funded with Title I funds or pre-entitlement funds from the federal government. These were funds received prior to the city becoming eligible as a community development block grant entitlement community. The office administers these funds and they must be used in a manner similar to those CDBG funds. The Housing Navigator was funded with Title I funds the last 2 years, and its success proved the role's importance to the functioning and overall capacity of the Missoula Coordinated Entry System. The contract runs from November 1st through June 30th, 2021, to bring it in alignment with the city's fiscal year. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Gasvoda. Ms. Jones, a motion, please.
Thank you. I'd like to make the recommended motion that we approve and authorize the mayor to sign the Housing Navigator grant contract with Partnership Health Center in the amount of $40,000. This position assists in securing housing for difficult to house individuals, and I'd like to speak to it briefly.
Ms. Jones.
This is something that I'm really glad to see come through council. We have a lot of housing issues in Missoula, but specifically we want to get as many homeless housed as possible, especially as we head into winter. So having this position filled, someone who will specifically help those people navigate the system through our coordinated entry system, that will know exactly what resources are out there and how to connect them with them and get them housed as best as possible is a really good thing. So I'm happy to make this motion and support it.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Is there further discussion on the motion? Ms. Harp.
I too will be in full support of this housing navigator position. It's one of the things that we add additional social services to the portfolio that we must do in terms of services as a community. We've got to make sure we have the folks in place that we can actually implement and the process. And this is an absolute necessity to get people off the streets and into homes.
And Ms. Merritt.
Thank you. Thanks, Ms. Gasvoda, for bringing this to us. This is a really good piece of business. I'm glad that we're able to do it. There are finding housing for people. While it seems maybe on the surface like a simple thing, it is a difficult thing to navigate. And having the assistance through Partnership Health with a professional who knows the ins and outs of the system, who can guide people through it is so important. And I know that each year that these efforts help us get more and more people off the street. So I'm very happy to support this.
Seeing no further discussion, we'll have a roll call vote.
On the Housing Navigator contract, Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Sherrill,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
and Hart.
I think that was Libby giving her vote for a yes as well, so I'll follow suit. Yes.
All right, that is 11 ayes and 1 absent.
And the motion is approved. Yes, I apologize. Libby elected to weigh in, which she's wont to do occasionally. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, with your indulgence, I'd like to take the final consideration item, which is non-controversial, and let Ms. Griffin get out of here as well. And that item lives in Administration and Finance. Ms. Jones.
Let me scroll up to that. All right. I would like to make the recommended motion that we adopt a resolution for first quarter fiscal year 2021 amendments to the annual appropriations for the city of Missoula, Montana, as set forth in the fiscal year 2021 budget that increases the total city revenues by $1,159,011 and budgeted appropriations by $1,407,351.93 in order to recognize additional grant revenues, activities, and expenses for fiscal year 2021 and incorporate expenditures and projects approved in the FY21 budget process, which were not captured in the final appropriations resolution. And this has been thoroughly discussed. I'm in support of it. This is basically, as money comes in, we have to sometimes modify our budget accordingly when we get grant money, et cetera. So I won't speak to it more than that, but it's pretty straightforward.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Is there a discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I have one hand up in the audience. Mr. Larson?
Yes, this is Matt Larson, again, Ward 3. This subject in general, the budget, has been anything but straightforward this year. So I'd just like to point that out. And, you know, you can see this with the last minute mill levy. You can see this with the police budget and the complete negligence to public commentary regarding that. You can see that with the invisible baseline budgets that the city will not allow the public to see. And so, yeah, I'd love to see or hear from anyone about why we can't see that stuff. Why can't we see itemized stuff from each department, a baseline core budget document? Why can't we see what's going on with the Water Enterprise Fund, for instance, which is a very important fund, which has to do with the maintenance and overall thing. So we need to watch this very closely. Why can't we get an estimate for how much the legal fees are going to be this year with Boone Carlberg and Perkins Coie and like every single other contractor and freaking a third party that has to do with this water battle over the water company that's just never ending. I just spoke with somebody just here a minute ago. They're like, that's still going on. Like, I just love it because people are actually waking up and you're seeing this across the board. So, I mean, it seems high time to just kind of explain what's going on under the hood here. Lee Griffin, Dale Bickle, the mayor, anybody, and maybe give us an estimate on how much the entire legal fees are going to cost this next year. This would be the time to do it. You know exactly how much money is coming in. You're adjusting all this stuff this week. Why can't we see it? Thank you. Bye.
And we will have a roll call vote.
Okay, on the resolution to adopt the first quarter budget amendments, I think we start this round with Jones.
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
Von Losberg,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
and Hess.
Yes.
Would any of you like to change your vote? It's 11 ayes and 1 absent.
And the motion is approved, and we are back in order. Thank you again for letting me shuffle things around a little bit. We are at the public hearings portion of our agenda, and state law and our own council rules set guidelines for inviting comment in a formal way on a variety of issues, and following a staff report on each of these, council and I will invite comment. We will begin the public hearing this evening. That public hearing will remain open until council takes this item up under final consideration in the future. Our 2 public hearings this evening start with referral and staff report on Hellgate Village East Townhome Exemption Development Conditional Use. And our staff report this evening comes from Ms. Trepard.
Hello. Let's see. Can you hear me and see my screen?
We could stand to hear you a little bit better, Cassie.
Yeah. Okay. I'll speak up a little bit.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm Cassie Trepard, and I'm an associate planner with the Community Planning Development and Innovation Department. We received a conditional use request from Nick Kaufman of WGM Group on behalf of HEH LLC for a townhome exemption development of 10 or more units in the B2-1 Community Business Zoning District. The proposal is for 43 units. I will be discussing Memo 1 and Memo 2 during this presentation. Hellgate Village East will be located on lots 1 and 2 of the Hellgate Village subdivision. The subject property is east of Mary Jane Boulevard, west of the Hellgate Meadows subdivision, and south of Pleasant View Homes No. 3 subdivision near Hellgate Elementary School. The subject property is on B2-1 community business. A targeted growth policy amendment and rezoning was approved in November 2019. All residential building types are permitted in the B2-1 zoning district. And this zoning district allows for 1 unit per 1,000 square feet of parcel area, which is equivalent to 43 dwelling units per acre. For the zoning, Lot 1 would allow for 54 dwelling units, and Lot 2 would allow for 108 dwelling units. A development agreement was established in November 2019, which limited the density of the subject property to 14 dwelling units per acre, as opposed to 43 dwelling units per acre allowed by zoning. This density would allow 17 dwelling units on Lot 1 and 34 dwelling units on Lot 2. The applicant is proposing to construct 15 units on Lot 1 and 28 units on Lot 2 for a total of 43 units. The proposed density complies with both the zoning and the development agreement. Adjacent properties to the north are zoned RT10 residential 2-unit townhouse and contain detached single-unit houses. Adjacent properties to the south and east were rezoned to B2-1 community business with the rezoning of the subject property and are currently vacant. The parcel west of Mary Jane Boulevard is the proposed location of Hellgate Village West, which we will review at a future meeting. Properties to the east are in the neighborhood general subdistrict of the Hellgate Special Zoning District. Abutting parcels to the east contain detached single-unit houses. However, there are townhouses and multi-dwelling building types a block away on Dublin Street. The applicable regional plan is our Missoula City Growth Policy 2035, which recommends a land use designation of neighborhood mixed use for the subject property. The neighborhood mixed use land use designation recommends a mix of residential and neighborhood commercial uses that include retail, office, entertainment, professional services, and eating and drinking establishments. Current relatable zoning districts in this land use designation include the B2-1 Community Business Zoning District. So here's the proposed site plan. The units are accessed by Killarney Way, Mary Jane Boulevard, and private alleyways. The development contains a mix of detached house, 2-unit townhouse, 3-unit townhouse, and 4-unit townhouse building types. Many of the units contain attached garages. Others have detached garages shown as tan boxes on the site plan. Some units are oriented toward Mary Jane Boulevard and Killarney Way, while others are oriented toward shared common areas. A non-motorized public access easement between Killarney Way and Mary Jane Boulevard was created with the Hellgate Village subdivision.
Road plans and improvements for Mary Jane Boulevard and Killarney Way were reviewed and approved with the subdivision as well. So the applicant began the planning process with Development Services in 2018 when ordinance number 3609 was in effect. The city TED regulations have changed since this ordinance was in place. The Hellgate Village subdivision was approved in October 2019. The city was aware with the subdivision that a TED was proposed for the subject property. Our current regulations no longer permit townhome exemption developments of more than 20 units in B zoning districts. Under ordinance number 3609, we did not limit the number of TED units, but required conditional use review for projects of 10 or more units. The project has detrimental reliance on the regulations in place when they began the project, and the applicant and Development Services signed a letter agreeing that ordinance number 3609 will apply to this project. The TED regulations under ordinance number 3609 limited block lengths to 480 feet. This is also a requirement of our subdivision regulations. The applicant requested a variance to this requirement with the subdivision for lot 2. The variance was approved. The non-motorized public access easement between Mary Jane Boulevard and Killarney Way was provided to mitigate the impact of the variance request. The TED regulations also require 11% of the parcel be dedicated as parkland, or the applicant must provide cash in lieu. There is no parkland shown on the site plan, however, common areas are provided. The applicant paid cash in lieu with the Hellgate Village subdivision, so the TED requirement requiring parkland dedication was met with the subdivision. All other TED regulations under ordinance number 3609 are met. And all attached townhouse building types must meet the townhouse design standards of 2040-140. These design standards and their application to TED projects has not changed since ordinance number 3609. Here are some photos of detached single unit houses in the Hellgate Meadows subdivision to the east. These homes are located on narrow lots similar in size to the TED ownership units in the Hellgate Village East TED. And then there are also 2-unit and multi-dwelling building types in the Hellgate Meadows subdivision within a block of the subject property. North of the subject property in the Pleasant View Homes number 3 subdivision, there are detached single unit houses, many of which look about like this. Okay, and there are 13 different building types proposed for Hellgate Village East. 8 of the designs are detached houses identified as cottage, mews, and single family in the application packet. There are 3 types of 2-unit townhouse building types identified as mews and 2-unit townhouse. And there will be 1 3-unit townhouse and 1 4-unit townhouse on the subject property. And here you see the front elevations of the 2-unit townhouse building types and 2 detached house building types. Here are a few more examples of a 1-unit and 2-unit house. And there will be 1 4-unit townhouse and 1 3-unit townhouse, both located on the southwest portion of Lot 2 near Mary Jane Boulevard. Okay. Title 20, Section 208570H outlines the review criteria City Council must consider for conditional uses. The first is whether the proposed use complies with all standards of the Title 20 zoning ordinance. The project meets all applicable standards of Title 20 under ordinance number 3609. And per Title 20, Section 200160, the project must comply with all applicable local, state, and federal regulations in order to meet zoning. There are 8 recommended conditions of approval that will ensure the project complies with all regulations. I will explain the regulations and why each condition is required to ensure compliance when we go through the conditions. Several of the conditions relate to International Fire Code. This criteria will be met if recommended conditions of approval are imposed. The second review criteria is whether the proposed use is in the interest of public convenience and will not have a significant adverse impact on the general welfare of the neighborhood or community. Adverse impacts on the general welfare of the neighborhood or community are not anticipated. Required improvements to Mary Jane Boulevard and Killarney Way were established with the subdivision and will mitigate the effects of traffic generated by the project. A system of pedestrian paths is proposed to provide safe pedestrian access through the development. Only residential uses are proposed on the subject property, which fits into the context of residential development to the east and to the north. And the property is in an area that is already served by city police and city fire. So in order to ensure the alleyways are accessible to city fire, conditions of approval 2B and 7 require no parking signage on both sides of the alleyways. The alleyways must be 19 to 20 feet in wide in order to provide fire access as required by condition of approval number 3. And I'll provide more detail about fire code and the recommended conditions of approval in the upcoming slides. Conditions numbers 5 and 6 ensure the project will be accessible to city fire during construction. The proposed TED will not have a significant adverse impact on the general welfare of the neighborhood and community if recommended conditions of approval 2B, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are imposed. City Council must consider whether the proposed use is compatible with the character of the surrounding area in terms of site planning, building scale, and project design. The proposed building types are similar to structures east of the subject property in the Hellgate Meadows subdivision, as you saw in the previous photos. The townhome ownership units are also comparable to lot sizes to the east. Detached houses to the north are compatible in terms of site planning, scale, and design to the proposed TED. And the only 3-unit and 4-unit townhouses in the development are located in the southwest corner of Lot 2, away from existing single-family development. All proposed building types are 2 stories, with the exception of the 4-unit townhouse, which is 3 stories. The fourth criteria to consider is whether the proposed use has operating characteristics that are compatible with the surrounding area in terms of hours of operation, outdoor lighting, noise, and traffic generation. Existing development to the north and east is residential. Other adjacent parcels are currently vacant, and only residential uses are proposed for Hellgate Village East. The TED will have operating characteristics typical of residential uses and their surrounding neighborhood. City Council must determine that the proposed use will not have a significant adverse impact on traffic, safety, or comfort, including all modes of transportation. Plans and required improvements for Mary Jane Boulevard and Killarney Way, which provide vehicular, bicycle, and pedestrian infrastructure, were established with the subdivision. A non-motorized public access easement will provide a safe pedestrian route between Mary Jane Boulevard and Killarney Way. All dwelling units are connected to the public streets and common areas by a system of pedestrian paths. And alleyways provide access to parking, which reduces curb cuts on Mary Jane Boulevard and Killarney Way, creating a safer pedestrian environment. Conditions of approval numbers 2B, 3, and 7 ensure that the alleyways provide access for city fire. And staff recommends 8 conditions of approval. Condition of approval number 1 states the townhome exemption development conditional use on land legally described as lots 1 and 2 of Hellgate Village subdivision shall comply with all applicable portions of Title 20. Plans submitted at the time of zoning compliance permit, townhome declaration, and building permit application shall substantially conform with the application submitted at the time of conditional use review, subject to review and approval of development services. And this condition is standard for all conditional uses to ensure that the project meets review criteria 1. And criteria 1 requires the project to comply with Title 20 zoning code. In order to meet zoning code, projects must comply with all applicable local, state, and federal regulations. The second condition of approval has 3 parts. It reads the declaration of townhomes, covenants, conditions, and restrictions for Hellgate Village East shall include the following sections and statements subject to review and approval of development services prior to zoning compliance permit approval of the townhome exemption declaration. Part A is energy efficiency. The building should consider using energy efficient building techniques such as building orientation to the sun, appropriately sized eaves, windbreaks, extra insulation, passive solar lighting, solar heating, photovoltaic cells, and ground source heating pumps for heating and cooling. Ground source heat pumps and other type of heat exchangers are usually more efficient and so create less pollution than other systems for heating and cooling. Increased energy efficiency reduces air pollution, reduces the need for people to use cheaper heating methods that pollute more, and helps protect the consumer from energy price changes. This language came from an agency comment provided by the health department. The statement was conditioned for the subdivision in order to comply with the health department standards, but upon review did not appear in the subdivision development covenants. The TED declaration establishes the ownership units and also acts similarly to development covenants. This statement can be placed in the declaration to ensure compliance with health department requirements. And part B, parking restrictions. Parking is prohibited on both sides of all alleyways shown in the application packet. The Hellgate Village Townhomes Owners Association, Inc. must ensure 20-foot clear travelway is maintained on all alleyways. The alleyways are too narrow to accommodate parking. City Fire would like to ensure that they can drive a truck through the alleyways to access all structures, which is not possible if cars are parked in the alleyways. Adding this statement to the TED declaration notifies property owners that they are responsible for ensuring the alleyways are kept clear. And C, subdivision covenants. The development covenants of the Hellgate Village subdivision apply to all land within the platted subdivision, in addition to the declaration of townhomes for Hellgate Village East. And this statement ensures that property owners know that they must adhere to both the covenants and the TED declaration. Certain language in the covenants was required with the subdivision to meet regulations. We would like to make it clear to property owners that both documents run with the land. So after the staff report for Hellgate Village East conditional use was issued on October 29th, 2020, the applicant proposed modifications to the conditions. Condition number 3 originally required the alleyways to be paved to a 20-foot width. The representative, Nick Kaufman, requested that the condition of approval number 3, requiring 20 feet of paving for the alleyways, be modified to allow 19 feet of paving for alleyways abutting exterior parcel lines. The representative stated that 20 feet of paving was not possible adjacent to exterior parcel lines due to grading issues. At a meeting with the representative on October 30th, 2020, Dax Frazier of City Fire and Troy Monroe of City Engineering determined that an amendment to condition number 3, allowing 19 feet of paving for portions of alleyways abutting parcel lines, is acceptable. Currently, Mary Jane Boulevard, Killarney Way, and the alleyways are not constructed. The applicant would like to begin building structures as soon as possible. Condition number 3 originally stated that the alleyways must be installed prior to approval of the first building permit. At the meeting on October 30th, City Fire determined construction of structures could take place before the alleyways are installed, as long as structures are accessible to emergency vehicles from Mary Jane Boulevard and Killarney Way. Condition number 3 was amended to state the alleyways must be installed prior to certificate of occupancy for the first structure. So condition number 3 now states the applicant shall prepare plans and install improvements for the private alleyways, resulting in a 20-foot wide public access easement, including paving, drainage facilities, and ADA improvements, subject to review and approval of City Engineering and City Fire. The alleyways must be paved to a 20-foot wide or 20-foot width, except for locations specified on Exhibit A, where 19 feet of paving is required. Plans for improvements shall be approved by City Engineering prior to zoning compliance approval of the townhome exemption declaration. Improvements shall be installed prior to certificate of occupancy of the first structure, subject to review and approval of City Engineering and City Fire. And condition number 3 ensures that the project will not have a significant adverse impact on the general welfare of the community per review criteria number 2. And here's the exhibit from Memo 1. And as you can see, 20 feet of paving is required on all alleyways, except for portions of the alleyways that abut exterior parcel lines. Conditions 4, 5, and 6 were created with memo number 1. At a meeting with the applicant on October 30th, we discovered that Mary Jane Boulevard and Killarney Way had not been constructed yet. Condition number 4 was added to ensure that the street improvements are completed prior to certificate of occupancy for the first structure. After memo number 1 was issued, the representative requested an amendment to condition number 4. Condition number 4 in memo number 1 stated improvements to Mary Jane Boulevard and Killarney Way must be installed in accordance with the street design plans approved with the Hellgate Village subdivision, subject to review and approval of City Engineering prior to certificate of occupancy for the first structure. Mary Jane Boulevard will be designed and constructed by the City of Missoula with funding from the Build Grant. The applicant will be contributing to the cost of improvements for Mary Jane Boulevard. However, the timeline for installation is set by the city and the Build Grant. The applicant does not have control over the timing of road construction. The representative stated that the timeline for issuing certificates of occupancies for structures in the project should not be delayed by the construction of the road. A condition requiring Mary Jane Boulevard to be installed would be a condition on the city rather than the applicant. Development Services Planning and Engineering staff worked with City Public Works staff to amend condition number 4. Staff agreed that we should not condition construction of Mary Jane Boulevard as this is out of the applicant's control. Memo number 2 omitted the requirement for improvements to Mary Jane Boulevard prior to certificate of occupancy from condition number 4. So temporary access must be provided on Mary Jane Boulevard for residents and emergency vehicles. City staff decided that condition number 6, which we'll look at on the next slide, created in memo number 1, ensured temporary access is provided, allowing us to issue certificates of occupancy prior to full improvements. Improvements to Killarney Way will still be required prior to certificate of occupancy for the first structure. So condition number 5 states the applicant shall install 20-foot wide millings in place of paving Killarney Way prior to approval of the first building permit on townhome ownership units 1 through 15, 23 through 27, 32 through 43. Millings must be maintained by the developer owners to a level that ensures access by emergency vehicles in all weather conditions until full improvements for Killarney Way are installed. In memo number 2, the statement in green was not included in the condition. Today, fire requested that it be added to the condition to clarify the developer and owners are responsible for maintenance until the road is constructed. And then we have condition number 5 again, because I forgot to delete it on the previous slide. Condition number 6 states the applicant shall install 20-foot wide millings in place of paving Mary Jane Boulevard prior to approval of the first building permit on townhome ownerships units 16 through 22 and 28 through 31. Millings must be maintained by the developer and owners to a level that ensures access by emergency vehicles in all weather conditions until full improvements for Mary Jane Boulevard are installed. Again, the statement in green was added after memo 2 to clarify maintenance requirements. The applicant would like to begin construction before Mary Jane Boulevard and Killarney Way are installed. City Fire stated that they must have emergency vehicle access to the site during construction. City Fire agreed that 20-foot wide millings in place of Killarney Way and Mary Jane Boulevard would provide adequate emergency vehicle access prior to construction. Specific townhome ownership units are referenced in each condition. Some of the units require access from Killarney Way, while others require access from Mary Jane Boulevard, so they are broken up accordingly. These conditions of approval are recommended to bring the project into compliance with fire code and to ensure there is not a significant adverse impact on the safety and general welfare of the community during construction. And condition number 7 states the improvement plans for all alleyways shown on the site development plan in the application packet shall include provisions for restricting parking on both sides of all alleyways in the form of installation of no parking signage, subject to review and approval of city engineering prior to zoning compliance approval of the townhome exemption declaration. This condition is necessary to ensure alleyways will be unobstructed for the use of emergency vehicles. Condition number 8 states, all townhome unit structures shall comply with International Fire Code, subject to review and approval by City Fire prior to building permit approval. For structures measuring 30 feet or less from grade to top of parapet or 30 feet from grade to the eave line, a 7-foot clear area for city fire ladder access shall be provided to the structure. For structures exceeding 30 feet in height, the following standards shall be met. A, structure shall be located within 15 to 30 feet of an aerial fire apparatus access road and must be parallel to the access road in order to comply with International Fire Code. And B, the aerial fire apparatus road shall provide a minimum unobstructed width of 26 feet, exclusive of shoulders, and shall not be obstructed by overhead utility or power lines located between the access road and the structures in order to comply with International Fire Code Appendix D. Currently, all the proposed structures comply with this condition. This condition essentially limits the height of buildings that are not within 15 to 30 feet of an aerial fire apparatus road. Per the site plan, Killarney Way and Mary Jane Boulevard meet the definition of an aerial fire apparatus road, but the alleyways do not. Many of the structures will not be located within 15 to 30 feet of Mary Jane Boulevard or Killarney Way. Fire can effectively fight fires for these structures if they are 30 feet or less in height, where the eave intersects with the wall. While all proposed structures currently meet this requirement, the site will likely be redeveloped in the distant future. Individual property owners may also choose to modify their structures over time. Conditions of approval are easy for staff to locate and enforce. So staff recommends this condition as it will help future planning staff ensure redevelopment and building modifications comply with the International Fire Code. And then staff recommends approval of the townhome exemption development conditional use request based on the findings of fact in the staff report, subject to the conditions of approval as amended or as shown in memo number 2 and amended by City Council on November 9th, 2020. And that was amended today because fire did request that extra clarification about who is responsible for maintenance of the millings during construction. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trepard. With that, developer or developer's representative care to make any remarks? Mr. Kaufman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. It's nice to see you this evening. Cassie, thank you for the presentation. I'd like to show you about 16 slides as part of our presentation, Mr. Mayor.
Give or take. I appear to have lost you, Mr. Kaufman. You still there?
Mr. Kaufman, you've been promoted to panelist, so you can show your slides.
Perfect. Mr. Kaufman, you're muted. Mr. Kaufman, are you still there?
I'm still here. The wonderful world of technology.
Oh, no worries at all. I just wanted to make sure we hadn't lost you.
Tell the truth, Mr. Mayor. All right. Thank you very much, members of the council, Mr. Mayor. The city of Missoula does a very thorough and exceptional job. This project has been around for almost a year and 4 months now. I want to thank Development Services, in particular, Mary McCray and Cassie Tripard, who gave you the staff report. Also Parks and Recreation, City Engineering, Troy Monroe, and City Fire Department, Dax Fraser. So Hellgate Village, as we proposed it back at May of 2019. This is an illustration of one of the common areas.
Mr. Kaufman, you're not seeing your illustrations.
See if you can hit share screen. If not, I have a copy of his presentation, which I can run.
Well, let's do that, Ms. Tripard. Thank you.
Yeah, let me just find it. Let's see. Right, that's
We've always got a
loading
plan
up.
B, Mr. Kaufman.
Say again, Mr. Mayor.
We always have a plan B.
You know, success in life is measured not by how well you implement Plan A, Mr. Mayor, but how well you execute Plan B.
And of course, mine, it's not loading up very quickly.
I think maybe we'll try this without slides this evening.
There we go.
Thank you, Ken.
Let me share this. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Cassie.
Thanks, Cassie. You're a lifesaver. Really appreciate it. So we'll look at this slide the second time. So many thanks to the city of Missoula and to their staff for this project. Can I have the next slide, please, Cassie? This just shows you who worked on this. I'm the senior planner. Jeff Smith is the professional engineer. Dustin Hover is the project engineer. And Kate Dinsmore, our landscape architect, worked on this. Next slide, please. So the project is located on the east side of Hellgate Village, kitty corner from the school, south of Pleasant View and west of Hellgate Meadows, which we did in 2002. This slide shows you 44 Ranch, which we're bringing in final plats for at this time, and Heron's Landing, which you approved 2 months ago, which soon will bring in a final plat. So we're doing our best in the private sector to help with providing housing, and in this case, owner-occupied option housing. Next slide, please. So the developers are David Edgell and Wade Hoyt. They combined forces to make HEH. They both developed homes in Hellgate Meadows. David Edgell was actually a partner of Hellgate Meadows, so they're very familiar with the area and do very quality construction throughout the Missoula community. Next slide, please. So the designers for this project were Opticos. Opticos is an exceptional design company that keyed the term missing middle housing to help address the housing crisis across the United States and as it is manifested in our own community, Missoula, Montana. For duplexes and triplexes, fourplexes, townhomes. They've done an exceptional job with this. When David Edgell was a partner to Hellgate Meadows, they used Reynolds and Coyle, who were the contemporary quality single-family affordable housing designers at that time. This, however, is 2019 through 2020, and Opticos temporary design necessary to bring quality development to this important 8.5 acres as part of Missoula's future housing stock. Next slide, please. So So we've taken a number of steps. Cassie talked to you about planning and zoning and subdivision review, all of which have happened. We're phasing this. The conditional use you're looking at tonight is for Hellgate Meadows east of Mary Jane Boulevard. After the first of the year, we'll submit another conditional use TED for townhomes west of Mary Jane Boulevard. Next slide, please. So as we showed the community in our neighborhood meetings and the city council as we went through subdivision and zoning review, this is an artist rendering of what the development would look like once completed. We're again working on Hellgate Meadows conditional use townhome exemption development east of Mary Jane Boulevard in this location, and we'll bring this one in after the first of the year. Next slide, please. So this is a colored rendering down view of the area view of the proposed project. Single family detached are in yellow, the multifamily are in the colored. You can see some of the common areas throughout the project that the homes front on. There's about 4/10 of an acre of common area here. Also cash in lieu and requirements for a larger park as part of the development agreement. Next slide, please. Another artist rendering, oblique view this time, gives you a little closer look of what we imagined and showed the public. And what we're proposing is very, very close to what we illustrated a year ago. Next slide, please. So infrastructure and phasing, street, sewer, and water are have been approved by city engineering, and O'Leary Street has been constructed, but for the paving. The right-of-way has been dedicated. You saw Jeremy Keenan in his presentation today and your letter of intent to accept the dedication of both O'Leary and Mary Jane Boulevard. So things are moving in a well-planned fashion and in a timely fashion, and we appreciate the city's participation and the developers' involvement in this effort to create housing in the Missoula community. Next slide, please. So Cassie talked to you about 5 lots. So you approved a summary subdivision in October of last year. Here's lot 1 and lot 2, which are the subject of this conditional use. 3 and 4 are separate lots, and these are the housing developments proposed for them. And then lot 5 will come in as Hellgate Meadows West, the first part of next year. 43 units on this side of Mary Jane Boulevard that's being reviewed for approval tonight. Next slide, please. An update to Title 20. It was Title 19 in 2002 when we did Hellgate Meadows. We zoned all of this property and had a master plan for it. Basically, we've updated that. The zoning allows for phasing in a consistent framework and reasonable setbacks and walkable spaces. We rezoned the entire 57 acres, not just the 8.5 acres, which was subdivided as Hellgate Meadows, and then the 43 units that are under the conditional use review this evening. Next slide, please. Phase 1 and 2. Next slide, please. Cassie showed you a colored view of what Hellgate Village East looks like. Next slide. A little close-up of how those clusters work in this conditional use. Next slide, please. So we actually anticipate build out and occupancy in 2021. Heather Harp asked me during LUP what we thought the time frame was, and I thought it was 2 to 3 years. That's been accelerated. It looks like we'll build this 43 units out in 2021. Hellgate Village West, the other side of Mary Jane Boulevard, are being worked on right now. And I want to spend just a minute. This is my last slide, Mr. Mayor. I won't show you the thank you slide because I thanked you twice, showing you the second slide twice. So fire protection during construction. We have to bring in concrete trucks, delivery trucks, trusses, all manner of sheetrock and building supplies so we can build these homes through the fall and winter. And to do that, we need a structural road surface to do that. Cassie talked to you about those millings. So those millings will provide access for emergency services, be it ambulance and medical or fire protection during the construction phase prior to the buildings being occupied. This is just during construction. Later, Killarney and Mary Jane Boulevard will have to be paved before we can get occupancy permits. So we'll have full paved streets at the time of occupancy, and temporary access roads for building construction and fire and emergency services during the building phase. That completes our presentation, and we thank the City Council for their time and the public for their patience as we worked through this over the last 15 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Thank you, Ms. Trepard, for providing much needed technical assistance this evening. So the public hearing will remain open until council takes action. And at the moment, I have no one in the audience caring to comment. Council members have questions? No questions? Comments? Provided they're relatively brief. Ms. West.
Thank you. I have a question on the condition regarding the height. I don't think I have access to the most up-to-date presentation. So Cassie, do you mind pulling up that language just so everyone knows what I'm talking about? But I was wondering if the conditions related to the height are also going to be required to be a part of the covenants and restrictions. Just so I know that this is also for ease of development services, knowing what the height, the restrictions are, but I think it'd be great if the homeowners down the line also know what the restrictions are without necessarily having to come to development services. So do you know if these are going to be included in those covenants?
Currently it's not, and we would be looking at the TED declaration, which, like I said, acts similarly while establishing the land. I hadn't planned on placing it in there, but that's definitely something we can consider.
Yeah, if the applicant is, agrees with this, I think it would be great for future owners. I know that, I think a lot of dreaming happens before you go to development services if you're working on a remodel or an addition to your home, and it's really great for people to know what their, reasonable expectations are from the front end. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. West. Any further questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our second public hearing. This is on the Schmidt Road, Milwaukee Trail to Mullen Road connector, public trail easement, open space acquisition. And with our staff report this evening is Mr. Carlton.
Good evening, council members. Mr. Mayor, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
I am going to forego video because it has been hard on my connection. So maybe I'll try it again in a moment. I'm going to share my screen if I can pull up some maps. Can you guys see that?
We can, yes.
All right, I am Grant Carlton, Open Space Program Manager, City of Missoula Parks and Recreation. I am here to talk to you guys about the Schmidt Road Public Trail Easement Open Space Acquisition. We are requesting up to $25,000 of the city's portion of the 2006 Open Space Bond for the purchase of a perpetual public trail easement and as well as applicable transaction costs. Just a quick note on the distinction between the 2006 Open Space Bond and the 2018 Open Space Bond. As most folks know, and for those of you that don't, that may be out there in the public, Missoula voters voted to approve an open space bond in November of 2018 of $15 million, split evenly between the city and county, building on a legacy of open space bonds for Missoula dating back to the 80s. The previous bond was a $10 million bond in 2006, split evenly between the city and county. We are requesting specifically from the city share of the 2006 open space bond, which has about $83,000 and some change unallocated at this point. So just as a sort of an accounting measure, we're trying to spend that bond and clean it up a little bit before we start. We already are tapping into the 2018 bond, but just to get that off the books. So the sort of the primary selling point of the Schmidt Road easement acquisition is its connectivity. It provides a critical connection between the Milwaukee Trail and the Mullen Road and Mullen Trail. And if you can see my cursor here, this yellow highlighted property is the subject parcel. It's about 8.5 acres in total, owned by Delbert Fox. And again, so as you can see, it's bisected by what is an undeveloped portion of the Milwaukee Trail. And the ultimate vision is obviously extending the Milwaukee Trail, the highly used shared use path. And so the developed portion of the Milwaukee Trail, which you can see down here, and I'm going to pull up a different map if I can. This is if you guys can see that, this is a sort of inventory of Missoula's primary commuter trails. What we're looking at is the developed portion of the Milwaukee Trail here, if you can follow my cursor. And basically the property we're talking about is sort of towards the end of the developed portion of the Milwaukee Trail, which sort of extends from the urban core of Missoula at its intersection with the Bitterroot Trail all the way out to the Clark Fork where it terminates now. And so I'll have a more detailed map showing sort of ownership of where it ends. But this is sort of just indicative of Missoula, the community's investment in the Milwaukee Trail and its extension, largely due to the open space bonds that we've seen and the investment by other partners in the community. And so, yeah, so this project will just bolster those investments. It's a very important connection that will link the growing Mullen area with city-owned open space along the Clark Fork River, which I'll show you in just a moment, as well as to Missoula's urban core, businesses, hospitals, places of employment, schools, parks, etc. Sorry, I'm having trouble bouncing back and forth here between maps. So this is where the Milwaukee Trail currently ends, the developed portion. So back in 2016, the city acquired the Cullen Ditch property here, which will be developed and extend the Milwaukee Trail. Back in July of this year, the Parks and Recreation Board approved a recreation management plan for the Clark Fork Islands Nature Preserve, which will have future trails out here on this island. There's more proposed trails out here. This is obviously an extension of the Tower Street Conservation Area. So this is sort of building on that momentum. I do want to talk a bit about, let me take a step back. So we'll talk about the river stretch here in just a moment, but there's 3 other parcels left to be completed that will connect the Milwaukee Trail to the Schmidt Road property and on to Mullen Road. Those are owned, 2 of them are owned by JTL Group or Knife River, and the other one is owned by the Klaus family. We have an easement on this portion here with Knife River. We also have a clause in an agreement that will basically create an easement along the Klaus property once it's connected to Mullen Road. So essentially, once we have the proposal that we're talking about tonight, the Schmidt Road property secured, we will then only need to secure an easement or acquisition of one of these Knife River portions to complete this side of the sort of Mullen Road to the Clark Fork River. I've gotten a lot of really good questions related to this bridge. And like I mentioned, Missoula Parks and Recreation Board did approve a management plan here, which does contemplate the extension of the Milwaukee Trail across the river. We did put out a call for bids on design and planning related to a bridge across these channels of the Clark Fork River. We did choose a HDR group for that. We haven't contracted with them yet, but just to sort of preemptively address the extension here across the river, We haven't received any indication that that's not feasible or viable. We'll obviously have to undergo some resource assessments, some ecological assessments. We'll have to deal with, bank migration and erosion. This is where the river opens up and starts channelizing. So all that will be assessed, but we haven't received any indication that that's not possible. So we're operating under the assumption that we will be able to cross that river with a likely very expensive bridge. And that's the problem right now, is that we're trying to figure out where those funds are actually going to come from. I think we can find them, but that's sort of to be determined. While I'm talking about that, I've also gotten questions related to, why, these portions here are not completed. Why are we going out here and securing a portion over here that isn't going to be connected immediately? The answer to that is that we have a willing landowner. This is sort of an opportunistic capitalization, if you will. As the Mullen area starts to grow, we're seeing increased land values. We're seeing properties change hands. And we've got a willing and ready landowner at the table. And so we're jumping on that at Parks and Rec. This property is on the market, just to be clear. And I got word the other day that there is some interest. So again, it's an opportunistic endeavor here. If I can, I just want to talk about, there is, many of you know, there's a larger planning effort going on in the Mullen area. We got the build grant secured between the city and the county, and we are going through the Mullen area master planning effort. This is a nice extension and is consistent with all of the planning efforts that are ongoing out in that area. We're anticipating sort of exponential growth out in that area. And so this is just a really, like I said, a really critical connection. And if I can go back to this, the Milwaukee Trail along with the Bitterroot Trail are basically Missoula's primary for its commuter trails. As you can see here, there's many extensions off of those, but the Bitterroot Trail and the Milwaukee Trail are our primary means of moving residents and visitors in a non-motorized and sustainable way around our community. And so extending those trails, specifically the Milwaukee Trail, is enumerated in essentially all of our open space and transportation plans. The Missoula Urban Area Space Plan, the Missoula 2045 Missoula Long Range Transportation Plan, the Master Parks Plan, and the Active Transportation Plan all sort of prioritize the extension of shared use paths and commuter arteries, and many of them specifically name the Milwaukee Trail as high priorities as Missoula grows. Let's see. I also just wanted to mention there's a sort of a national effort called the Great American Rail Trail that aims at creating a corridor along the old Milwaukee Road, along with some other portions of rail bed from Washington, D.C. to Washington State. And this is a segment right in the middle of that. So it's consistent with sort of national efforts. It's consistent with local efforts and investments in the Milwaukee Trail extension. And just speaking to the connection to Mullen Road and Mullen Trail, the county has invested significantly in the Mullen Trail, moving users to the west as Missoula grows that way. So it's consistent with sort of efforts ongoing with Missoula County. Just a side note, I'm in preliminary discussions with the airport about their stretch of the Milwaukee Trail. So there's a lot of momentum that's sort of correlated positively to where Missoula is growing. And again, this just creates a very opportunistic connection that is sort of a missing link here. So I'm really excited about that. This project does come recommended by Missoula's Open Space Advisory Committee for funding up to $25,000. And so that, let me just speak quickly to that $25,000. That is including $15,000 for the actual easement purchase, and then up to $10,000 of a transaction cost related to due diligence works. If we need to get a commission a survey, we've got some consulting fees from when there was a gap between my predecessor and myself. And so I'm hoping to not use all of that $10,000, so that is an up to request. And I wanted to keep it brief. So with that, any questions?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Carlton. If your presentation is done, I will open the public hearing. All right, we have no one interested in commenting this evening. This hearing will also remain open. Oh, I'm sorry, I do have one person.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Hi, my name is Natalia. I live in Ward 3 in Missoula, and I personally use these trails a lot, the Milwaukee Trail significantly. And I know that my own brother lives out down Mullen Road, and I think that this would be a great opportunity for the city to expand accessibility, especially for bikers. I know many of my friends personally who have been hit by cars riding on streets in Missoula. I should not know multiple people who've been hit by cars riding in streets in Missoula. And I think that this would be a great opportunity for accessibility, especially for people who need access to places like Walmart. I know that that can be difficult for people to get to, especially if you don't have access to a car. So I want to thank Grant. Thank you for your presentation. And I think that this is something that the city councils should consider seriously for accessibility in Missoula.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other hands up for the public hearing, questions or comments from council members? Ms. Cheryl.
Thank you. Grant, I just wanted to say thanks for that presentation. I think that, you know, with all the, you pointed these things out, but I just want to highlight them. With all the new development that is going out in that area, I think this is a great step in making those neighborhoods livable and, you know, commutable neighborhoods. So I'm excited about that. Puzzles are not always put together, you know, in order. So I think that we do need to be opportunistic in this, and it's available, and I'm all for it. So I'm also excited about the furthering our transportation goals in the city. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cheryl. Anyone else this evening? All right, well, thank you, Mr. Carlton. Once again, that public hearing will remain open. We have no additional public hearings, and you all took care of items of final consideration. Back in order, communications from the mayor. So we have a transparency challenge that is not self-inflicted with regard to officer-involved shootings. And while I appreciate the passion that folks have to ensure that our police department is accountable, which I believe it is, and a desire just to have more information, which I completely understand. Today we have some legal obstacles to overcome, and we want to ensure that for the sake of the officers involved, the family, and the entire community, that the process of investigation is fair. So releasing some details at this point have potential for prejudicing that conversation, that investigation, and ultimately the outcome. I know it's very difficult to be patient, and I recognize all of the frustration that has brought folks to city council meetings and to the streets to protest and call for police reform, and we are continuing that work. But I can also tell you that it continues to be important not to conflate every incident with some of what we've seen at the national level. If we were in that position in this case, my response to you would be much different. But based on what I know, I am very comfortable with this investigation proceeding. I believe, tragically, the community is safer today than it was before this incident. And the nature of this call would never have gotten a response from our mobile crisis unit. All of that information will be forthcoming. It will be forthcoming in due time. And I would just ask people not to randomly speculate or make inferences without having any information, or even the limited information that we've provided. It's just not time for that, and it doesn't help anyone. So we will be continuing through the process. We will be as transparent as we can, given the constraints. And Chief White and I had a conversation this morning about what we might need to do in order to make sure that we can get this information out more timely and get resolutions. Everyone involved in these investigations and subsequent coroner's inquests are put through hell, whether you're the officer involved or the family member involved, or friends and community members. It's the longer it takes, the worse it is. So we're working on that as well. But again, we are not in control of all of this as much as I would like us to be. With that, we will begin general comments from council members with, let's start with Mr. Hess this evening.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll pass tonight.
Ms. Vasika?
I'll pass as well. Thank you.
Mr. Ramos?
I'll pass. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Becerra?
I will pass. Thank you.
Ms. Hart?
Thanks. Mr. Mayor, I really want to appreciate your comments tonight. I think our whole entire community is put a pause button in terms of its concern around Mr. Cale Brown. And I think every one of us definitely wants justice to prevail, and that process of investigation takes time and patience on all of our ends. But I also think there's something else that none of us yet know. And I think we all, at least I know I am trying to empathize and put myself in the shoes of the family, and trying to deal with the grief that they are facing right now. So I think my heart goes out to them, and that we are thinking about them, and all of our law enforcement officers as well. Thank you.
Ms. West?
Pass.
Ms. Cheryl?
Thank you. I wanted to thank you as well, Mr. Mayor. This is a tragedy, regardless of what the ultimate findings might be. And I just urge our community, while we are grieving, that they are patient. This needs to be done judiciously. It is a tragedy on a lot of counts, and so please be patient. We expect this to, this isn't going to be solved tomorrow, nor should it be, because we need to take thoughtful, careful steps in investigation. So I appreciate your comments, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Merritt?
Thank you. If I can push the right button. I just wanted to speak briefly to the mobile crisis team, since that has been brought up tonight. It turns out that hiring and training qualified individuals to participate on this team is somewhat time consuming. I want to thank AC Davis at the Missoula Fire Department, the folks at Partnership Health Center, and our partners at the county for the diligent work that has been going on over the past 2.5 months now to get the mobile crisis team up and running. it is not something that just happens overnight. It requires qualified individuals to be part of that team. And folks have been working very hard to get this up and running. I'm very proud that we have the people who are willing and able to devote the time it takes to make something like this from scratch. As the mayor said, the incidents that the mobile crisis team will be dispatched to are going to be those that don't involve a weapon. And that doesn't describe the situation that happened on Sherwood Lane on Saturday night. So we do need to be careful about jumping to conclusions, and we need to give the mobile crisis team also time to get up and running and show us what they can do. I have every confidence with the leadership that's involved that we will see much better outcomes from a lot of situations, but not situations that involve weapons.
Ms. Jones.
I just also wanted to say thank you, Mayor Angen, for your comments. These situations are really complicated, and in this era and climate, especially after this summer of social unrest, there's a lot of attention paid to these types of incidences, which is as it should be. But as you mentioned, there are different entities other than the city of Missoula that are doing full investigations into this. I think it's the Department of Justice, Montana Department of Justice, and the Division of Criminal Investigations that does the full investigation, which is a best practice to have a completely different entity evaluate and investigate the entire situation. And as a result of that, we don't really have any control over it. So I've had a lot of emails today, people wanting a lot of information right now. It is nothing that we have control over, and that's exactly the way it should be, so that there are impartial and neutral investigators who look at the entire situation. And it's a sad situation all around, but I think we just have to be patient and let it unfold. And that's going to be the way to get to the best information. So thank you for your patience tonight.
Mr. Von Lossberg.
Thanks. I don't have anything to add to the comments that have already been made around the tragedy on Saturday. Wanted to specifically thank Ms. Merritt for her comments around the mobile crisis response unit. I share those feelings, as I believe we pretty much all do. I just wanted to take a separate moment to acknowledge earlier in the agenda, we had an item involving the Poplar Plantation and the Hybrid Energy Group business. And I just wanted to take a brief moment to recognize Tom Platt, who passed away far too young and not that long ago. Tom was instrumental to that operation. He loved that operation very, very deeply. That operation did enormously good things for the river and the operation of the plant. Tom was one of those people who contributed so much to Missoula in so many different ways, really lived a life of innovation and deep, deep compassion and empathy. Dealing with that item tonight made me miss him even more. And I just wanted to acknowledge him. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Contos.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your comments earlier, especially emphasizing patience and calmness. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Contos. And I got you all, didn't I? Okay. And we bounced around here, but we are done with business unless there are any additional items to be referred or any miscellaneous communications, petitions, reports, or announcements. All right, seeing none of any of those, as always, I thank you for your service, and we will be adjourned.